this is good, but sometimes where it's implemented, just it just felt a little random. It just all of a sudden this weapon doesn't work. I have to use something else. I tried to think of some logic to it. It seems like the eagle will only attack things that maybe. Hello YouTube, FlameVisit here with another game to review. It is a classic 16-bit run-and-gun game. It is called Ranger X. It is quite a fun game, and it has a lot of style to it. It's called X Ranza in Japanese, and it's one of the games that I consider the classic. I'm not sure if it holds up, but we'll find out. I will talk about that. I think that it's one of those interesting titles on the Genesis, and definitely worth playing. So let's get into it. So let's where do we start? Story. Practically none. So like I said, in Ranger X you basically play a one-man army, cybernetic mecha exosuit survivor, hero, savior, fighting against what is called Rahuna forces, a different alien or tribe that comes to your planet and seems to have, I don't know, maybe destroyed the government, took the president or commander, whatnot. It happens all in the first stage. There isn't any really exposition that happens in the game. It tells you who the bad guys are, what the stakes are. You just can see a cutscene of ships flying in and invading a city, and it's being torn apart by bombs, and Ranger X shows up and starts fighting them, fighting the different jets and robots that are invading the city. And so your goal is to decimate these evil forces, whether they be alien or a different country. I do not know. They don't really talk about that. They might be people from the future or something. Who knows? Though there's no time travel, so it's probably not that. In Ranger X, the exosuit that you have has different weapon capabilities that you can switch in between. You have a standard Vulcan fire, and you also have a special weapon. You can actually fire both of these weapons, and the control scheme allows you to switch directions between the left and right sides of the screen, so Ranger X can turn and fire at whichever direction the enemy is facing. You also have a lot of different movement abilities. You have the ability to hover in the air and jump up, and there are some stages where it requires you to progress vertically, and so you can keep flying upwards, but only up to a certain amount of time. The jetpack thrusters that you have can overheat, and therefore you have to, stay on the ledge or come back down. So you can't stay up in the air indefinitely, but it allows you to attack enemies that are firing at you from the sky. You also have the ability to stand on top of your bike. You have some sort of cyber bicycle that you can link up with, in fact. And the bike is really the coolest thing about this game. I really dig the flavor that you have using both the mecha suit and also the linking up with the bike in order to fight your enemies. So you can stand on top of the bike and control the Ranger X moving from left to right a lot faster, and both of these weapons are firing at the same time. You have a Gatling gun, you have a standard fire on your bike, and also you have your own standard fire. But you can also merge down with the bike, so once you're linked up, you actually have access to switching to different weapons that you may acquire from the game, different stages, and your bike can now auto-aim at enemies. It can fire at certain vulnerable spots to the enemies while you're in this linked mode, in addition to just zipping around in the bike through the stage. And it's fantastic. But here's the thing. You can actually control the bike as if it's a drone. If you are not standing on top of the bike. If you press down, you can hold your position. Ranger X can hold his position, and you can move left or right, controlling the bike. So you can forward it and ram enemies so that they are pushed back, and you can have it constantly fire. So this was a really cool thing. And in this mode, the bike is invulnerable because you're not part of it. I guess you're the weak aspect of this vehicle, really. So if you die, then you know the bike dies. But you know, if you send it off by itself, it is invulnerable. So just imagine that. That's very neat. Graphically, this game is quite good. It has detailed 2D sprites. It's very colorful. It is a later era game, so of course a lot of the later games in the Genesis era it is beautiful. I'm talking about games like Contra Hardcore and Castlevania Bloodlines. I consider those to be pretty fantastic, which were also later era Genesis games, just like Ranger X is. Unlike other run-and-gun games, level progression in Ranger X is objective-based. It will give you multiple targets. There's going to be this number that's allotted to you, like, in each stage. It's going to be on the top center, telling you how many targets there are, and so you have to destroy these targets in order to progress the level. The thing is, the game forces you to backtrack, because if you go from left to right towards the end of the stage, you'll find that you're missing a target, and these targets only appear after you reach the end of the stage. I don't think they are time-based. I've never actually tested it. It forces some level design environmental obstacles that, you know, you're glad to get through them, and then you have to go through them again in order to progress, because you have to destroy the target that's back there. And that's one of the things about the movement options for this game. You can use the bike to stand on top of it and, you know, not be in any poison or lava or some sort of other environmental obstacle. But later on, you also get stage designs where your character gets pushed around by airflow, or like different mines might be in the area, like floating air mines, so you have to link down to the bike, and that can be a little you have to figure out how to progress. But going through them once is fine, but going through them again when you have to backtrack to fight a certain target is annoying. But other than that, I think that the game has a lot of fun aspects, especially the different weapon systems that you get. Just like any other game, especially in the run and gun series, some weapons are more useful than others, and there are some overpowered weapons that make you wonder why you would even switch out to a different one. But because the game designers know this, they'll force you to switch weapons in a way by making the weapon not work the way you think it does. There are some enemies where you'd think that this weapon should home in or target them, and it doesn't work. I'm just like, okay, we're having a great time. All of a sudden, there's this thing we meet that you can't attack. That's odd. And it forces you to go onto the bike, link down, switch weapons, and then, you know, come back up with a different weapon that can target this enemy. You would think that this is good, but sometimes where it's implemented, it just felt a little random. It just, all of a sudden, this weapon doesn't work. I have to use something else. I tried to think of some logic to it. It seems like the eagle will only attack things that maybe are humanoid or sentient, or no, they're probably like moving ships. Oh man, besides the eagle, there's also like a twin laser. Sometimes that will direct its fire at something, and you're like, great, this is exactly how it should work. And other times, it just spins around. The lasers fire in every which direction. It's not concentrated, it's not that useful, and you're wondering, well, why isn't it targeting this particular bad guy? What's going on with it? But overall, this game has a lot of things going for it. The game is great at making you feel like this mecha one-man army. So where does this leave us? as far as Ranger X is concerned. Ranger X, I would say, is a 6 out of 10 game. I think graphically it's above average, and it has a lot of fun aspects to it, and a majority of these fun aspects are how cool you can you feel by being a one-man army with this cybernetic bike and jetpack and shooting around destroying everything. And also, I would give it like another full point, definitely, if you are into tokusatsu, sentai sort of genres, because this thing with the bike is really reminding me of something like Hokkaido, Kamen Rider, Black, but it most reminds me of the Space Sheriff series. Talking about what they consider the metal heroes, so we're talking about Gaban, Charavan, and Shider. Uchu Keiji, Space Sheriff Shider, especially. There's something about linking up with that bike and Ranger X is blue, and linking up with this airship and having it rain down destruction at the enemies. It is very reminiscent of that genre of shows. It's actually fantastic, and I think that's a lot of my that's a lot of the appeal for this particular game. So if you are into those, I would give this game a full extra point, pushing it to 7, heck, maybe even 8 if you're really into that. I think that this is a good one. You should add it to any sort of classic collection of 16-bit titles that you have for the Genesis Mega Drive. And it could have been better. I would have loved to see a sequel that improved on it.